An in-ground garden wasn't given enough mad scientist energies, so today we're going to be making a garden that runs solely off of water, aka hydroponic.
Okay, so first things first. There is roughly 20 gallons of water in here that I will need to add some hydroponic mixture to. I have two choices, either this Fox Farms one that has pretty much all the NPK that I need for these plants to take off. However, it is super strong and I've never used it before, which kind of worries me. Or I could use the Fox Farm Hydroponic Grow Big solution. This is a little bit different than their regular Grow Big, right? Yep. And this is made for hydroponics specifically to bind to a water medium instead of a soil medium. One of the other things that I will be adding to make sure that there's enough micronutrients in there is also some bat guano and worm castings. So this is liquid form. So this actually technically is organic. Now this, not organic, but we can always just make our own from kelp. My God, I don't have kelp. I'm bored and I accidentally overgrew plants, so we're going to be using these. Okay, so step one is going to be figuring out which ones are going to go where. I think my biggest tomatoes deserve to go into the slightly bigger tomato cages, and I think my biggest pepper deserves a good spot too, but I'm worried about them outgrowing this. However, most of their roots will be dangling, so I think it's all going to work out. So the only downside of this amount of things I have in here is I did not quite wash off the roots that well, which isn't a great thing, but this is what I'm trying to show y'all that we're doing. This would be a lot easier with a hose outside, but I'm trying to be as gentle as possible since I did rip them apart from their little partner in a 4-cell. Yeah, these massive things were in 4 cells. I made bad mistakes. But they're still alive, they're still healthy. I've been keeping them in water as I've been slowly disinfecting this setup from prior use since she was sitting outside for a bit. I don't want to bring any outside contaminants into this indoor area because, you know, I gotta live in here, they gotta live in here, and I don't feel like having pests to deal with inside. That's kind of defies the point of growing them inside. Okay, so this should be just about as good as we're going to get it. And the things we're going to do is to make sure that some of this ends up going through the bottom, so that way it can start growing towards the water down there. The beautiful thing about tomatoes is the fact that they will sprout out new roots along the stem. So will peppers if given the right nutrients. So I'm not too drastically worried about these guys not doing well in hydroponic. As long as my pumps fail me, they should be just fine. I will be filling this up all the way down to the top just to ensure that it is nice, packed, and also none of the water from the jets below manages to hit the foliage of the plant, which is an issue that I used to run into before I realized that we need to make sure all the gaps are filled. So here's our first transplant ready to go into the system, and I'll be dropping her right over here. Okay, so now that we have a slightly better angle, next on our list is going to be this lemon Numex jalapeno. It produces some of the really coolest jalapenos, and they are a little bit citrusy. I do wish I was growing my Megatrons again this year and or a Scotch bonnet, because for whatever reason I failed with Scotch bonnets twice already. I'm not sure how my luck with other peppers is that good, but not with Scotch bonnies. The bonnies just don't like me. Now, the roots on this guy look really, really good, so we should be able to see it transition relatively well to this new environment. And of course pull down a couple of these roots through the bottom. And I apologize if I'm not audible because there's a fan blowing directly behind you. Hopefully it's okay. If not, you can just follow my actions. So now we have our pepper in here. I'm going to remove some of the bottom foliage because it will not be needed. I'm trying to be as careful as possible to not destroy everything and not to break it in half, obviously. So now she's mostly weighed down. Really wanted to drip on my leg. So I have not yet finished filling it up yet, but it's a little bit easier whenever it's sort of sitting. One of the issues I faced the previous times I grew peppers hydroponically is the fact that they had too high of a salt concentration, and I think it was from the leaves getting hit with the hydroponic medium. So we're going to make sure that this does not happen again. Okay, so now we have 2 down, and I'm going to time-lapse the rest. You might be able to see this, but I have this one weird one going directly in the air. However, I don't think it should be too much of a problem unless it is leaking, because it's not really causing a dry area since this tomato will be getting plenty of water. It will be getting replaced though, because faulty sprinklers are not good. Okay, so the instructions here are for 4 gallons. This is 20 gallons. You need about 3 teaspoons or 15 milliliters. That just means we need about 60 milliliters of this. Considering that this is 473 milliliters, and it is at the very bottom 1, 2, 3, bottom fifth, so about 1/5 of this. So I have 100 in there, and I need 60, so I need most of this, like 3/4. I do usually use a syringe for this, but for such a large amount, especially with being able to pH balance, I'm gonna go on the slightly lower side of this. So, however, I should in fact turn my pump that is meant for dispersal and everything like that to be on permanently, to just oxygenate. So what I'll be doing is removing this jalapeno plant so I can pour this in a little bit easier. And don't worry, this isn't gonna hurt the plant. So I have a little pump going right over here. And just popping out water and circulating it. So 15, 30, 45, 60. Like I said, going significantly below what I think it actually is. However, with this organic mix, I don't really need to think about it. It's not going to alter the pH too much. We're going to come back to this once it's done circulating and check to make sure the pH is between 5.6 and 5.8, somewhere around those marks. 5.8 and 6.3, I apologize. But I prefer it to be a little bit lower since hydroponic medium, certain elements are only active at certain pHs in here, so it will fluctuate, it will rise, it will go down. But if I keep it lower, then once it rises, it will be able to get the rest of the nutrients, whereas if I keep it high, it might not get all the nutrients and some of them might get locked out. With this, we can really just go really heavy-handed. But it will be roughly around the same amount of 60 milliliters. Ooh, wow. No, it says 60 milliliters of water. 60 milliliters of liquid for 4 gallons of water. Ooh. Lots more. I actually don't have enough. But this will be just fine. Okay. Now we're going to leave this bee to its devices. The last and final step that we have here, besides cleaning up, is just turning on our pump that circulates the hydroponic medium through the jets. However, I will be given a little bit of time for everything to dissolve in the water, then I will turn it on, program it, and close it off here, and I should be able to leave for about a week at a time, and everything should still be just fine. It's very basic instructions. Even my brother can handle this. Literally just pouring about 15 ml and adjusting the pH. And I don't think we're gonna generally need to be adding this, because there's only really one thing that's flowering, and right now I want it to be in its vegetative cycle, aka just producing as much green foliage as possible for the next week to 2 weeks, and then I'm going to flip it, and then she will be producing tomatoes and peppers for me. So using my handy dandy ppm and pH meter, I will be able to tell how many parts per million there are, so just how much soluble nutrients there is in that water, as well as what pH it is at. And for adjusting pH, I have pH up and pH down, which we will be using gloves for, because both are really caustic. I mean, to be fair, all of these things are extremely caustic, so make sure you're keeping them off of your hands. If you get any on you, wash it off. If you get any in your eyes, why is your eyeball that close to the solution?
So today's sponsor is actually going to be Epic Gardening. That is where I get almost all my seeds from, and currently they're running a 50% off select seeds sale, and also some of the things that you might need to start off a new garden bed or hydroponic setup. To me, it's just such an incredible opportunity to be able to work with Epic Gardening, considering I still see myself as a gardener and a musician and a small-time video creator. and just to be able to be included on all of this and to be able to give you guys an additional 10% off, and just you got to use the code BURN in a day. Well, you can see it down below. So, as the nutrients had a little bit of time to process a little bit better, I'm going to be adding this to my circulation pump timer, and so therefore, oh, okay. Okay. Let's see, mode, auto. Let's see what we're programmed to do. About 45-minute increments on and 2 hours off.